Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Every once in a while, we have to bring out the big dog.
Yeah.
Oh, God help us. It's time for Danny Unleashed. Sponsored by Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Go to eastonroofing.com for more.
Yes, indeed. Danny Clinkscale's here. Fourth quarter begins right now here in the program. Always finishing strong.
You got it.
But we're ready for overtime if necessary.
I don't know about that.
Jed is shaking his head.
No.
It is the program here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Petro, Seabolt, Jed Marshall, and Danny Clinkscale joins us. Danny Unleashed with us here. Wrapping things up on a Friday is brought to you by Easton Roofing for commercial and residential roofing. I saw some commercial roofing going on right across the parking lot from where we sit right now. Easton Roofing has got you covered. 4 straight years voted Best of Houses. That's a prestigious award, by the way, from the Houses website and app. Angie's List Super Service Award winner. Yep, check. They got that, too. With Easton Roofing, there's no payment collected until you're 100% satisfied. Credit cards and PayPal accepted. Call 913-257-5426. Find them online at eastonroofing.com. Danny, how are you, sir?
Doing just fine, Soren. Joe Spiker had himself a good time going up to Chiefs camp.
He did, yes. I saw him up there and chatted with him.
Hey, always fun.
I got to
Patty Icicles fan.
I got to
for Pat.
Yeah, I got to ask him. Hey, great! I'm glad you're here. Who looks good? My favorite question.
He mentioned that. Actually, we had a long conversation last night, so we went through it all.
So who looked good?
He just thought it was funny that you would ask the question that you ask everybody on the air in jest about who looks good. So he didn't really have a thought on who looked good.
Well, I mean, it's not real football. So I just love it.
The one thing
so-and-so had 3 touchdowns. Well,
well,
there was no defense out there.
Get one in early here. I did write a blog yesterday about people's enthusiasm for going to training camp, and it kind of mystifies me. But hey, whatever. I mean, I used to like going to River Falls, but that was really just because of what went on when we weren't working, and the fact that you went away, and it seemed like kind of a little adventure.
Oh, River Falls was 10 times better.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, I'm glad for St. Joe.
Sure,
for the money and everything to be in St. Joe.
Fans,
and I love St. Joe. I think St. Joe is a great, quaint little, city. I don't want to call it a town. But for me, as far as a work experience, it was like a media slumber party. The weather was incredible. Every year but one.
Yeah, one year it was hot.
Yeah, well, it took the life of Corey Stringer up there. But
also, and it was harder work then, just because of the technology, and there was more practice. And
there was 2 practices, both of them open.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you
had to get out of the way of the people being tackled to the ground right in front of you.
You had to send the stuff in real time, and then eventually it would get, you'd go through each increment of technology improving, but at the very first, when you were at River Falls, you just had to play it down the line.
Yeah.
So however many interviews you had, that was
the phone coupler.
That was how long it was going to take for you to feed. So.
Well, that's entertaining about me and you, Danny.
That's about right. So
maybe we'll press on from there.
Yeah, press on. Probably the last time I had a cheese curd. That's a lie. I actually like cheese curds.
Man,
as unhealthy as they are.
I asked Trent Green if he had been back to River Falls. He said no, but he has been up to the border area. It's spectacular. Just beautiful place to be. So
actually, if you want to look back in the archives, I did write a blog about River Falls too. It was so-called "Almost Shot by the River Falls."
Is that your?
That was the reference.
George W. Bush.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the reference.
Yeah, that was.
But one of my first times in River Falls that you got to see the experience and the way the people up there operate. We went out after practice, and these 2 very well-dressed businesswomen came in to a bar. I don't remember which one it was, Bose and Mine or one of those. And they sat down, made sure that they had the Monday night football preseason football game up on the thing, and then they each ordered a pitcher of beer for themselves and cheese curds.
That sounds like
Good
a good
people.
Monday night.
I know.
Good people.
I liked it.
Um,
So who is looking good, Soren, to you? Do you think people get? Is there a portion of the listening audience that doesn't like this when we say things like, it's not real football, and you can't really judge who looks good and who looks good, and you ask every person who looks good, and it's a joke. Do you think there's a group of fans who are like, hey, come on, I was up there and I could see that, Alvin Jones was making some strides, and
I'm not going to critique those people.
I'm not going to denigrate him either. I'm asking, do you think that there are people who are like, shut up, it's real football, come on, and that they think it's,
In that voice, too.
well, maybe not in that voice, but
Well, I hope not, because they don't tackle.
right, I know.
So that's a very important part of the equation. And they're like, well, like they will eventually blow a play dead, but you can't hit the quarterback.
Right,
So he delivers a ball on every attempt, no matter who they are.
right.
And so that's, so-and-so caught 3 touchdowns. Well, 2 of them, the ball would have never come out because he was sacked.
Right.
So, yes, the guy finally lumbered his ass over to the corner of the end zone, and after about 8.5 minutes, Chad Henne unleashed one, and he found him in the corner of the end zone.
Right, so it's really
But-
hard to play defensive back, too.
Yeah, you can't waddle. Oh, absolutely. They're the ones who totally don't get, they always look bad because there's no pass rush.
Right.
Like they do it, but they just go right by the quarterback, and then he goes ahead and finishes out the play like he wasn't sacked. And Reed kind of bristled at that. He's like, oh, we'll blow the whistle. What? Really? Really, Coach? Like, I only had a handful of minutes with him when I had him on, and I always appreciate his time, and I always enjoy the conversation with Coach Reed, but I ain't buying that one. Not for 1 second. That ball always comes out.
The plays go on and on. There's no question about that.
And so that's why when I've just J.J. Moses. I mean, so many camp darlings that come from this. They look great when you don't tackle. Oh, J.J. Moses is going to be electric on punt returns. No, he's not. What are you talking about? He took like 4 back. They all run to the end zone.
Right.
They're not tackling him. He didn't beat them with a move. They didn't tackle him.
And then to show that they're hustling, they do run all the way to the end zone.
Yeah. Well, they're told to. That's
right.
Finish the run. Finish the run.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's get to the bottom of what has been an issue on our text line, 913-912-4810. If you'd like to text me. Can you pronounce the first name of number 17?
Number 17. I don't have a roster in front of me.
His last name is Hardman.
Oh, I've heard it pronounced 1,000 different ways. So, Mikol.
Okay. The Georgia Pronunciation Guide,
Yes.
because there's not a Chiefs pronunciation guide out there yet, right? They haven't put the really guide out there. Says capital M, capital E, hyphen, lowercase C-O-L-E.
That would be Mikol.
Right.
Which is probably the one I've heard the most, I guess.
So that's what I've heard as well. And there's just one guy, he ain't giving it up. And he
What does he think it should be?
he says, Soren, you are continuously pronouncing Mecole Hardman's name wrong. You have a unique name yourself. You should appreciate someone pronouncing the name correctly. You pronounce the name like Nicole McCole.
Well, you just said what the pronunciation guide said.
Right. Well, that was George's. And so that's what he said. That's what I read first. And I said, listen, I always want to be factually correct. But if you're going to correct me, you need to be correct. First of all, Nicole, Nicole, is not N-U-H
Right.
hyphen C-O-L-E in a pronunciation guide. Okay? Nicole. And Kerr's like, well, some people say Nicole. I'm like, well, they're wrong.
Like a schwa sound.
Some people say
Americanized.
Missouri,
Right.
Yeah.
and they're wrong. And some people say Syracuse, and they're wrong. And some people say Lowell, and they're wrong.
What's funny is that it's always been one of
I
my...
don't care if it's indigenous. Well, that's how they say it there. They're wrong. There is a proper way to speak the language.
I know there's, and it's I think it's one of the most really interestingly American phenomenons.
Right, but hang on.
It's like Baltimore, Syracuse, Rochester.
Right. Orange,
Worcester.
Drar, all these different things. So I made that statement. I said, listen, you're contradicting yourself in your correction of me. Nicole is not N-U-C-H. It's Nicole. Okay? Then I get this after I said that. When he was interviewed at training camp the other day, that was one of the things. By the way,
You're
I'm
in
putting
irate mode.
Yeah. When he was interviewed at training camp the other day, that was one of the things that he said was that people are pronouncing his name wrong. The name is pronounced like the name Nicole. McCole. He then puts the pronunciation again. M-U-C-H.
I didn't hear that interview. Did you?
Nicole
I didn't hear that.
is not. I have not either. I have not either heard that at all.
You know, you'll probably get the chance to ask the man. Usually what happens is that the person ends up not caring.
Right.
You know, they'll usually say, pronounce it however.
Well,
you
I
want."
pointed that out. It's like you were the. I'm like, do you not listen
If
to
you call
the
him
show?
Meckley,
People
then you've
call
got
me
an issue.
Soren every other day.
Right.
You don't ever hear me correct them.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I just found it interesting that this was like the big go-getter.
Well, the other part is so you can kind of maybe it sort of is kind of supposed to be pronounced McCole, like he's saying, but down south they would almost naturally say me Cole,
Right?
that me Cole Hartman.
Yes.
I mean, so maybe it technically is supposed to be that, but it was never pronounced that way because of the area of the country.
Yeah. Anyway,
It's a weird hill to die on, but some people,
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's a great phrase, by the way.
So I my question of the day are 18 questions in
Yes.
18 days. By the way, do you have it? Do you want to play it, or do you want me to just read? Let me just read it, Jed. I don't want you to have to actually lift a finger over there. Our training camp coverage is brought to you by the Missouri Lottery. Play it forward with the Missouri Lottery. Mosaic Life Care, the official health care provider of the 2019 Kansas City Chiefs training camp, your hometown sports medicine resource for athletes of all ages, and your Kansas City GMC dealers. My question for the day was, I can't even remember how I phrased it. I know what it was about. What will Hardman live up to being the 56th player taken, the number 56 pick in this draft? Will he live up to it? Will he live up to being the number 61 plus the number 167 to equal number 56 in this year's, and why it's important?
He's a wide receiver in the National Football League, so if I had to put my own money on it, I would say no, because I think there are more wide receivers who don't live up to their draft position and expectation than there are that do. And there are many wide receivers who are picked lower than said higher draft choices who become very good players, which means they're going to get replaced, and they're not going to get forever to prove their worth, Chris Conley, whatever. And so I guess if I was going to, I'm not down on the young man or anything like that, but I would just early in the process, just using the mathematics that I've seen over the years, I would opt for no.
Second year in a row, their initial selection was a second-round pick. They didn't have their first-round pick. Right? What was it the year before? Oh, that was the pick they gave to move up to get Mahomes.
Right.
This year, they didn't have it because they traded for Frank
Jones,
Clark.
their top pick, too?
The year before that. I think.
Yeah, but they traded down out of the first to take Chris Jones in the second.
Right.
So my point is, so they traded up in the second round to get Breland Speaks last year.
Right.
They've traded up to get Mecole Hardman. Mm-hmm. And maybe I could have put the two of them together and said one of these guys needs to be really good. Now, I'll always give a guy a second year to try to make it work. But, you know, I do think it's very important to be good in the second round.
I agree with that, and I think that the Chiefs are showing a tendency over these years. Chris Jones worked out, whatever.
Chris Jones and Mitchell Morse worked out.
But the last two that you talked about that they traded up for, I think there's a temptation, if you are trading up, to try and maybe reach for a more high-ceiling player because you want your top draft choice, per se, even though it's not a first-round draft choice, to be an outstanding player, an all-pro type of player, instead of just making sure you get a good football player for yourself in the second round. So I think there's probably that temptation. Hey, this is our very, it might be even just human nature. You're sitting there, you've kind of liked me, Cole Hardman, and you're like, ooh, boy, he may go. We like this guy. And you just can't help yourself.
Right.
And you make a deal.